Oh, what a day. What a lovely day. And today in Hawkeye's House of Horrors, I'm going to bring for you the fourth installment in the Mad Max series, and that is Mad Max Fury Road. Now, it was a week ago. My wife and I went out and watched the newest entry, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, which is, I got to say, it's a bit of a misnomer. Mad Max is in it for like one shot. But in saying that, we really enjoyed it. It was great. George Miller is still the man behind the films, the filmmaker that made every one of these Mad Max films. So I would definitely suggest going out and seeing it. I'm going to let it stay inside me for a bit, and then I'm going to watch it again, and then I hope to do a review for that someday as well. But this is the previous entry, or really, Furiosa is a prequel to Fury Road, as the Furiosa character is introduced in that film. Now, as I said, this is directed by George Miller. It was also written by Miller, Brendan McCarthy, and Nico Lathurius. Now, I believe it was Lathurius and Miller that wrote Furiosa as well. Now, it's based on characters done by Miller and Byron Kennedy, who did the original Mad Max way back in 1979. Now, as well, just before I really get into my review of this film, and I got to say, I love it. This is in fact, my favorite Mad Max film. I think I'm going to take a little step back from my comment in Road Warrior, as that was my favorite pure Mad Max film. And it is more of a pure Mad Max film, perhaps, but Mad Max is really in this movie the whole way. He definitely takes a step back after the credit sequence, as he's on the front of the bad dude's car, tied up and everything like that, wearing a mask and everything. But Mad Max is in this film the whole way through. It's a Mad Max film, so I kind of take a step back from that statement a little bit. But this one is my favorite film, followed by The Road Warrior. Those two are just knockout films that are definitely must see for action fans. And certainly, Miller created a total new genre, really, with this post apocalyptic future set in the outland and everything like that. I believe he created that whole genre that really took off in the early 80s. Really, after The Road Warrior, it really took another step forward after that film. But I would definitely say, if you like this, hey, click like, subscribe as well. There's other videos. There's over a 30 videos that I've done for other films as well, including other Mad Max films. And hey, even if you want to, you could put something in the comment section, maybe even your favorite Mad Max film, or maybe even your ranking of the films if you've seen all five of the films as well. Now, definitely with the Mad Max films, as they progress, the budgets keep getting larger, and that definitely happens here, as it has a budget of $185.2 million dollars back in the day, and I think that was it was released 2015, so 9 years ago. Today, that would be $245 million dollars. That's a huge budget. Um, It did well at the box office. It made back 800, or sorry, take that back. It made $380.4 million dollars. Having a difficult time saying that number. That would be $503.2 million dollars in the year 2024 right now. It made the budget back, but due to advertising, I read, and other costs, it actually lost $40 million. But when it was released on DVD, it was huge. Um, I believe it was the biggest sales of a DVD for 2 consecutive years was Fury Road. Interestingly, I don't own it, but I've seen the film 3 or 4 times now. But it must have made the money big back on the DVD sales. Now, the premiere of the film was on May the 7th, 2015, at the TCL Chinese Theatre in Hollywood, before it finally got its Australian release a week later on May the 14th, 2015. Now, as well, this is the longest Mad Max film up to this point. It runs exactly 2 hours. Um, Now, what we have in this film is really what you had in The Road Warrior. You have some incredible action. Now, as I said in the review I did for The Road Warrior, the action in this film, it's just somehow it's even cranked up even fuller. Um, like to use the old Spinal Tap joke, he cranks it up to 11. Like the action is spectacular. To an action fan, they should really enjoy this film. It's Mad Max, so uh, I failed to say his actual real name. It's Max Rockatansky. That name really slides off the tongue, doesn't? No, not really. Um, but as I said, his character really takes a back seat as the story is being set up, maybe in the first 10 to 15 minutes. But once all the main characters are introduced, um, his character is brought back in. I was thinking though, like within the Road Warrior, um, getting to the setting or getting to the characters was done differently in that film because his character is introduced and all of the characters are introduced to him and us as he rolls through the story. Where this one, he is taking a back seat and the characters are introduced, certainly to Max, but more to you, the viewer, as Max is sort of in the background uh, for just a little bit of the beginning of the film. Now, definitely in a Mad Max film, what you are not going to get is a lot of story. And that continues here. The story is not overpowering, um, but it works. As it did in all of the Mad Max films, the story works. But what really shines through are the characters. They really make the film work and help the story move as well as get to this great action. And one thing that's really cool as well is this film, to me, has some really good, well written female characters. And it's not just one, there's a number of them. Um, and I will get to that in a minute and try and go through each of those characters a little bit. Now, right in the first scene, we see Max and his V8 interceptor. They are captured. And this shows me as a viewer, and right on my first viewing, I must admit I knew it was coming, but in seeing it and have seen all the three previous Mad Max films multiple times before that, um, it shows me this is a reimagining of that character, or it may be just another person playing Max. That same character, but it's just another person. And certainly the way life is set up and the setting of the film, it's a little bit different than the other films as well. We are further down that road than we were, say, in Beyond Thunderdome, the previous Mad Max film. Now, a misconception I had because there are comics produced, made for Fury Road. I think there was at least four, perhaps five, that gave you more backstory to the characters. So on my initial viewing and my secondary viewing, until I read up on it, and I was like, okay, that's not the case. But in watching this, I thought that Max, this character now has a daughter, where in Mad Max it was a son. She's even a little bit older. She's killed by Immortan Joe. I'm going to get to him. He's the main villain of the film. But that's not the case. She's not a daughter of Mad Max. It's some character he had met early in his travels that was killed. But I gotta say, that's really confusing to someone who hasn't read the comics and may not read the comics. You're assuming that that is his daughter. But, anyways, it doesn't ruin the film at all in any which way. But I thought I should mention that. Now, to get a little bit into the story now, in this future, we have um, people that are extremely poor to the point of starvation. That's how poor they are. But Immortan Joe, he's played by Hugh Keays-Byrne, who was in the original Mad Max film playing Toe Cutter. I certainly hope to review that film at some point because to me, um, Mad Max is perhaps the most grounded of the Mad Max film is the original one, including the villains. But I found the villains in the first one to be the scariest, um, the most out of control because they were the ones that I could see within our own world. They were much more closer to people you can see within our own society. But he played the villain in the original Mad Max, and he returns to do the villain character in the fourth entry here. But he controls a heavy supply of water that he gives very small amounts to these people. Um, and crazily, he then like states he doesn't want them to become addicted to water and more or less let it control their life. But interestingly, you need water in order to survive. Then we have a female character named Furiosa, here played by Charlize Theron. She does a really good job in the role. She's sent to get gasoline and ammo for Joe. Um, they're shown like there's a deeper look within the Furiosa film. That's the Bullet Farm and Gastown. Those are the two places she's going to get these things um, with their own leaders that contain the gas and the ammo. But instead of going there, she actually has uh, the wives of this Immortan Joe stowed away on her truck that she's leading to freedom. Now, these women, they're played by Rosie Huntington Whiteley, Zoe Kravitz, who is the daughter of Lenny Kravitz, and Lisa Bonet, I'll always remember as the eldest daughter on The Cosby Show. Riley Keough, I hope I pronounced that correctly. She's actually the granddaughter of Elvis Presley. That's very cool. Abby Lee and Courtney Eaton. So there's five of them. But Furiosa is looking to take them to the Green Place. She remembers and grew up there as a child. She's looking to take them to her own homeland. Um, and in addition, one of the wives, it may have been Rosie Huntington Whiteley. I believe she is the one. She's quite pregnant um, from Joe as well. So there you have it. And then there's a huge chase that, in the end, due to Max's suggestion of what they should do, they stick their heel in the ground, turn around, and go back to the Citadel where Immortan Joe came from. It's loaded with water, and we'll go back there because what she thought was happening with the Green Place, it's not exactly what's going on. Um, Now with Furiosa, go a little bit into her character. She's very much like Max. She's very weathered, hard to read, like Max. But she's actually kind of the real hero of the story. She's the one putting everything on the line to lead these women to safety, as well as herself. She wants to get away as well. Um, Now, in the new film, it's played by Anya Taylor Joy, um, and she does a really good job as well. They're kind of two different takes. two different women playing it. I thought Taylor Joy was much shorter. She seems really short in the new Furiosa movie. She's my height. She's 5'8". Charlize Theron is 5'10", a little bit taller, but it's like in my mind you'd swear it's like 6 inches or something like that. Um, but yeah, two really good performances on that character. Then we have the Five Wives, and I must say I really love how these characters don't on the run or during this chase end up grabbing shotguns or pistols or any weapon they can find and start firing at the windows at all these bad guys. That would be what most directors would do to amp up the action. It doesn't need to be amped up like that. Um, I find it a lot more believable that they're not doing that. These women have led extremely sheltered lives, and they're relying on Furiosa to get them to their freedom. You can absolutely see there's growth in each of the characters as well, but they're not there, blasting off ammo out the side windows while they're, you know, attempting to get to their freedom. And then we have more female characters that are well written and good, and they're the mothers, or from the Green Place. It's interesting to me because I always think of Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, but no, no, no. This is very different. Uh, this is the group that Furiosa originally came from, and she's going back to them. Um, but what I really love about them is they offset the wives in a sense that these women do know how to handle a weapon. They know how to ride on all these vehicles. They're tough. They can stand up for themselves at all times. Um, so they offset the wives in that way, and that's along. They join Furiosa, Max, and a guy named Nux. I'm going to get to him in a minute. Uh, as they head back to the Citadel, and they're sort of like the army along with Furiosa. And I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed that they're women as well, and they can kick ass. Now with Max, it's now played by Tom Hardy, and he does a pretty good job in the role. He's good. I must say though, personally, I do prefer Mel Gibson in that role. The way it was, he was too old to be in this film, and he may have been going on too many problems in his own life, perhaps at the time. But he was too old to be playing Mad Max at this point in his life. I mean, he would have been in his late 50s by this point, pushing 60. But just to put it in comparison with Gibson, um, it's maybe hard to describe, but it's Mel did things in the role with a smile or with confidence or overconfidence, and added a lot of humor as well that we don't quite get in this rendition of Max that we got with Mel Gibson's character. Now, in this viewing, I feel bad because I remembered him, but I forgot how big he is in this film, and that's a character named Nux, or the characters of they're called the War Boys. It's a really interesting vein in the story that I really enjoyed, and added life to the story. It was something different that wasn't seen in other Mad Max films. Um, but these war boys, they're all young men, all caked in like this white powder, much like Immortan Joe. They live to die for him. They live to be his army, to fight for whatever needs to be fought for, essentially, really. They're the crazed fighters who look to get to Valhalla and creating a spectacular death in fighting the enemies. He is so, this Nux character, he's so single mindedly focused on stopping Furiosa. But then after Immortan Joe sees him not complete his task by essentially tripping while getting on top of the back of her truck, and he just calls him mediocre. Um, he then, you know, it really affects him extremely hard, hits him very deep, and he decides to join up with the opposition until he does come to his own dramatic, most spectacular death in the film. But it's for those who are in need, not for some crazed lunatic named Morton Joe. Now, the music in the film is done by Junkie XL or Tom Holkenborg. I really do enjoy the music in the film, and it's a huge plus for the film, and it's right up there with The Road Warrior. At times, it may even bypass, like, um, overtake The Road Warrior. It's definitely different as well, though, as it's now using guitars. There's this one character, I don't remember his name or don't know his name, but he's like on top of the front of one of the vehicles, and he's playing this double neck guitar, bass together. Very cool. But at the top of the guitar, it's also a flamethrower. So he's shooting flames around, playing the guitar. Very cool. Very badass. I love it. And he's playing the music as they go down the road. So it's really cool. I also really do love in this film, the vehicles are sort of like a cut and paste of these old classic vehicles that are put together um, in a long time through history. That interestingly, none of these characters would have been alive when any of these vehicles were first released, but then they're put together in creating new vehicles. And I love also how Max continues to run around with an unloaded sawed off shotgun that he's been doing since at least The Road Warrior. I definitely need to see Mad Max again. It's been a little while since I've seen it. I don't remember if it's ever unloaded in that film, but that continues to happen to him. And then I thought as well after this film and Furiosa, when I saw both of those films, there's an awful lot of people dying in these two films, along with The Road Warrior. But after this happened, like in the future, is like the population of Australia now cut in half after like these battles, because the population must have dwindled significantly and people are dying left, right, and center here. Now, originally, the studio, I believe, because it was released through Warner Brothers, they wanted a PG-13 film, much like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. But there was a George Miller cut, and then the Warner Brothers cut, um, which was the PG-13 cut, but the George Miller cut was rated R. The um, the studio found that the George Miller cut was better. So they released that one theatrically, and that's the R rating. And I'm glad they went with that. I'm sure the PG-13 rating film might have still been really good, but this one's just balls to the wall. It's great. There's no filter going on, which I think you need to do in a Mad Max film. As I said in my review for Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, I really enjoyed it, but that filter that's added to it kind of dilutes things, and it's not quite as hard hitting, perhaps, as the other Mad Max films. Now, originally, the idea for the film came way back in 1987, but it was sort of an idea for a chase to last throughout the entire film. But roadblocks, many of them, came up through the years, causing the delays in bringing this film to the screen. Now, shooting was taking place between July and December of 2012. Now, reshoots were done in November of 2013. The second unit director and supervising stunt coordinator is Guy Norris, who was the guy who, in The Road Warrior, was on a bike and was flung into the air and was, cartwheeling through the air. Same guy. So that's cool that he is now doing that. And I think in the Furiosa movie, he was also the stunt supervisor as well um, in that film. Now, there's also a game set between this film and Beyond Thunderdome about Mad Max. I've never played. I do have a PlayStation 4. It is available for that, so I should go out and look for it and play it. I'm sure I'll enjoy it. I've never played a Mad Max game. That could be really enjoyable. Now, one thing this movie did that none of the others did previously is it was nominated for some Oscars and even won some. None of the other films, I don't think, were nominated for any Oscars. But I'm going to run through all the nominations and what they won. It's a pretty big moment, I'm sure, for George Miller and the crew that worked on this film. So it won Oscars for editing, which, when watching this film, it's top class, top shelf, fantastic editing, and I gotta say, yeah, they deserve it. It's done by Margaret Sixel, who is actually George Miller's wife. She had around supposedly 470 hours of film to edit and cut through and put together. Um, she well deserved that Oscar, and yeah, uh, it's no guff she won that Oscar there. Costume design as well to Jenny Bevan, and each of the Mad Max films has great costume design. Um, this one though, it maybe on another level because obviously there's more budget, more money to work with to get these costumes. So she did a terrific job there as well. Makeup and hairstyling also won an Oscar to Leslie Vanderwalt, Elka Wardega, and Damian Martin. Sound mixing to Chris Jenkins, Greg Rudloff, and Ben Osmo, as well as sound editing to Mark A. Mangini and David White. Finally, they won on all of these. The final Oscar they won was for production design to Colin Gibson and Lisa Thompson. So that's 6 Oscars they won. Great job. It was also nominated for visual effects, which I'm sure, hey, it definitely deserved that nomination. That was to Andrew Jackson, Tim Wood, Dan Oliver, and Andy Williams, but they lost. It won to Ex Machina, which I've never seen that film. It looks interesting. I think it's highly rated. Never seen that film though. Best cinematography. It was great in this film for sure. It was done by John Seal, but it lost to Emmanuel Lubezki for The Revenant, which I have seen that film, and that is one of the huge pluses of that film is the cinematography. It's breathtaking, really. You're in Upper Canada, just gorgeous background. Um, yeah, it's really good. And interestingly enough, Tom Hardy is also in that film as well, and he does a really good job in that film. He's the villain in The Revenant. And also, George Miller received a nomination for Best Director, but lost to Alejandro Gonzalez Iranatu for The Revenant. Was pretty good, and I believe that was the second Oscar he won in a row for Best Director. Excellent job there. And it also got a nomination for Best Picture, but lost to The Spotlight. And I've never seen that film as of yet either. Well, that was a lot of fun. I love this film. Man, oh man. I hope you've seen it. It's totally recommended by me. I recommend all of the Mad Max films, in fact. But anyways, that was fun. But yeah, if you wanted to, you could put in the comments your favorite Mad Max film, or even if you've even played the game, what your thoughts on the game are. But anyways, that was a lot of fun. And until next time, ba-boom, keep watching those movies.